It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. And we begin with security, as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appealed to the armed forces not to mortgage the future of Nigeria to division, indifference or delay, saying they have no other country but Nigeria. Describing the security challenges facing the nation as existential, President Tinubu gave the military a marching order to confront and defeat those undermining the country. Speaking during the grand finale of the Nigerian Army Day celebration at Murtala Muhammad Square, Kaduna, the president, who was represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, said the country owed it as a duty to keep equipping and empowering those who defend it. He stated that while a country was as strong as the courage of those who defend it, the Nigerian army had remained the spine of Nigeria's sovereignty for the past 162 years, shaping the course of the nation's history. He charged Nigerian troops to rise to the occasion, assuring them of his absolute authorization and the trust of Nigerians in confronting and defeating the agents of terror. Now to politics, as Nigeria's new political coalition, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, yesterday accused President Bola Tinubu's administration of being in a panic mode ahead of the 2027 presidential election. Characterizing the government as embarking on, and I quote, calculated incompetence, the coalition stated that the administration's sudden reform push was not born of compassion or policy, but of political panic sparked by the growing influence and credibility of the opposition. The declaration came as presidential hopeful Peter Obi took a swipe at the waste in the Tinubu government, stressing that as a Nigerian leader, he would not buy a 150 billion naira jet when hundreds of Nigerians were dying. The party stated that without the pressure mounted on the government with the successful unveiling of the opposition coalition last week, the government would have persisted in its calculated indifference to the plight of the Nigerian people. Now to economic news. For the umpteenth time, the World Bank has classified Nigeria among the lower middle income economies in its 2025-26 country income classification, below war-torn Libya as well as Gabon. While Nigeria retained its position in the LMIEs, some African countries like Algeria, Botswana, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Libya, Mauritius and South Africa are placed higher among the upper middle income economies. The World Bank stated that for the current 2026 fiscal year, low-income economies are defined as those with a gross national income per capita calculated using the World Bank Atlas method of $1,135 or less in 2024. Nigeria was also listed among countries in fragile and conflict-affected situations, alongside Yemen, Ukraine, Gaza, West Bank, Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Syria, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Afghanistan, among others. However, Nigeria was not included in the list of heavily indebted poor countries, which included Rwanda, Ghana, Gambia, Liberia, amongst others. Well, Rufai, lower middle income economy, among other stories, including issues of conflict. We saw the Nigerian army, parading themselves as they do every year. Always a great parade.
I mean, it was in commemoration of the celebration of the military. But I'll tell you a story, and I'm going to use it to tie together all the three stories, including the ADC and lower income and coalition talks and President Tinubu charging the army. That's a good charge from President Tinubu anyway. But you see, apart from charging the army to go ahead and fight in its internal crisis, I'll take you back to the 1980s. Something happened called the Metiseni riots. In the Metiseni riots, a panel of inquiry was set up. And the panel of inquiry came out with some resolutions. Payment of victims, fundamentalism and things like that happening. But most importantly, the panel of inquiry talked about rising urban poverty as a cause of most of this violence. When you draw a graph of what has transpired since the Metiseni riots to what we have with Boko Haram, if you talk about Islamic mindset, or you can talk about, fundamentalists. I don't like to use the word Islamic because a lot of Muslims that I know are great people and they're not fundamentalists. When you plot the graph, a common thread that goes across board is the fact that there is rising poverty and inequality. And this was also heightened in the late 80s after we started the secondary or second-tier foreign exchange market, and we had to devalue our currency, thereby devaluing the lives of the people. Since then, Nigeria has rigmarolled into what we have today. President Tinubu just steadily did nail the coffin by the further devaluation of the lives and the prospect of people as a solution to solving the problem. Economic experts worldwide have said that the solution to solving the problem when you're an economic cul-de-sac is not impoverishing the people further. It is creating manufacturing capacity and opportunities for the people to be able to scale. Joseph Stiglitz had talked about this extensively. Dambisa Moyo talked about this extensively, even arguing against aid, saying trade is the way forward. But here, we believe in devaluing the lives of the people first and think the economy will reflate. So don't be surprised that Nigeria is stuck in the lower middle income economy. We are worse off today than where we are close to 40 years ago as regards the state of play of the economy, because we have not done what we ought to do. And guess what? The things that are supposed to boost trade, like bureaucracy and having a government that is effective and efficient and long-term thinking, has never been the order of the day. Our politics have become about the highest bidder. And that's why Peter Obi was talking yesterday about how somebody went to buy a jet of 150 billion, not passing through the National Assembly, when that 150 billion can be used for counterpart funding for SMEs to be able to scale trade. By the way, hope you know that that jet is now being sold. Well, they want to sell that jet in Switzerland, and that jet looks in pristine condition. The same jet that they said was not working well. We saw the pictures, we saw everything. We saw the breakdown. So when you have leaders that the priorities missed, things like insecurity that we're now fighting will be a fallout of that process. Because you see, a man that is hungry, you don't even need to give him so much before you can stir his anger to violence. We will outstretch our military in fighting that, and that's why when President Tinubu said the military fight for the unity of this country is good. But if we have economic viability, the military will not need to fight that much. Has it been proven empirically? Yes. I also got the chance to sit down one time to listen to a lecture by Professor Hernando de Soto, the writer of the book, The Mystery of Capital, where he talked extensively about how giving economic rights to people through property rights can jumpstart the economy of another country. He told the story that day of how he solved the war in his country through property rights. That's supposed to be the solution. So all of these things are intertwined. It is all of these things too that is making the coalition politics come upstream. If you don't solve the fundamental problem, you will go back in circles and these things will continue to come up. And that's why I deliberately plotted a chart up to 40 years ago from the Metisani riot. The report talked about urban poverty as a veritable reason for that riot. But guess what urban poverty have been doing since that 80s? It's been rising steadily, and that's why you're having skirmishes, you're having agitation, IPOB, you're having killings, you're having Lakurawa, you're having this. What is the common thread amongst them? You can talk about ideology, yes, but you see, once ideology is laced with economic inadequacies, it's a fertile ground. I will wrap up by singing a song by Bob Nestor Marley. He says, "Me belly full and them hungry. An hungry man is an angry man. Ta-ra-na-na-ta-na-tan-ta-ta. Me belly full and them hungry." As long as our leaders are belly full and the people them are hungry, our leaders want them to forget, say the people, we're hungry, are angry men.
Okay, this issue is a very simple issue. The World Bank, in looking at gross national income, GNI, which is called, in relation to the revenue level of a country, talks about high-income countries. Most of those high-income countries are in Europe. They are in Asia. Now, they seem not to be having very serious problems. Then you have also the middle-income countries that are also there, who appear to be doing well, their own productivity income level over $4,300 per capita. And then you have the low-income countries who range within $1,135, $365 range in terms of GNI per capita. In other words, the measurement of the revenue that a country makes in relation to per capita, individual rate and all of that. And what the World Bank is saying is that Nigeria is in the low income rate. That means that GNI per capita in Nigeria is within the 1,365 million range. What does it say? The revenue that a country earns, the basic economics. I'm not an economist, but I'm an educated man, a public intellectual who is well educated across the range. It's simply that this, your GNI, is related to your level of productivity. This is not a productive economy. Nigeria depends significantly on oil produce, right? And oil produce, that's all we do.
That's all.
Now, what this message says to Nigeria is that you have to ramp up productivity within the economy. Yeah, the same World Bank says, okay, Nigeria is not among the lowest indebted countries in the world, which will have been a major concern. But in terms of GNI per capita, we are in the same category with Libya, with Gabon, and then in terms of security, we're in the same situation with Afghanistan, with Sudan, and all of that. So I think that this report, characteristically, what the Nigerian government does is to dismiss any report that provides an assessment. I think that the report should provide an opportunity for further introspection to say that in terms of GNI per capita, where are we getting it wrong? And in my view, with my limited knowledge of economics, if you can say that, people who are not even in the field know a lot more than the people who are there, is to say that Nigeria needs to prioritize productivity. The more productive this economy is, the more productive the environment will be, and the more that the Nigerian people will benefit. So the big takeaway is this, namely that if they say we're a low-income country, GNI and all of that, how can Nigeria? Every day they come to us, they say we have petroleum, they say we have solid minerals, ministers in charge of solid minerals tell us, oh, we are generating this much and all of that. The only way you can measure it is how the revenue comes in, how the income comes in, and how it affects us. I should like to see how Nigeria affects me at the income level. That is the public intellectual point that needs to be made. Now, what is the other topic again? Nigeria Army Day in Kaduna, and President Tinubu praising the army. Yeah, well, after a fashion, the Nigerian government will always praise the military, because these are people who have given up their lives to defend this environment. And the choice of Kaduna as a place for celebration is perfectly in order. Kaduna has the Nigerian Defense Academy. That's where we train our troops. Kaduna State also has the I think it's called the Staff and Command, whatever, in Jaji, also in Kaduna State. Now, I've been there a number of times while I was serving President Goodluck Jonathan, and I think that, it's okay, it's well, that Vice President Kashim Shettima, whom people say is not being given an opportunity, he should even be removed, is the one representing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is away in Brazil to attend the BRICS summit and also to defend the interests of Nigeria. I like to see a situation where a president travels, his deputy functions in his place and all of that. And in fairness to the Tinubu administration, we have not had any drama about the president traveling and his deputy not being allowed and politics being created around VP and vice and president's office. This is another illustration for those people who think that Vice President Kashim Shettima is being marginalized, or that President Tinubu is trying to be the only man in the arena. But the basic point is about the military being honored, the military being recognized. Where would Nigeria be without the military? Final point is about ADC. Saying APC is jittery. APC should be jittery, that should be natural. So what we witness now is that there's a lot of politics between ADC and the APC. Over the weekend, I spoke with the chairman of the APC, national vice chairman of the APC Northwest. And I asked him the question, if people are jittery, you are panicking. And he said, no, this is politics. Are we going to allow other people to just seize the space? We too must come out and speak. However, to go to the heart of the point, is that 2 years to 2027, the professional political elite, whether it's ADC or it's Labour Party, they are already talking about 2027. So who is talking about governance? We have Wike holding Thanksgiving, saying he's more important than Amechi. You have Zulum saying you will not leave APC. You have all kinds of, what is the IQ of these people? We should start taking the IQ of these political elements. Nobody is talking about the Nigerian people. And then they just embarrass intelligent people with stupid talks every day. Can we just focus on governance? Who cares about APC, ADC, Labour Party, whatever, and the individual ambition of people with very low IQs? Our focus should be on what will interest the Nigerian people and how the Nigerian people will be better served. So all this talk about ADC says somebody is jittery, APC says, what is all that rubbish? Who are these guys? Did they even go to school? No, I'm saying that we begin to question the IQ of the people who lead Nigeria and who lead Nigeria in various sectors. Don't we see people in Japan? Don't you see people in the United States? Don't we see people in the UK? And then we are saddled, the hapless people of Nigeria, with persons who are far less intelligent than the people they lead. This is the problem. You spoke the other day, that's Rufai, about Division 11, running Nigeria. Yeah. This is the problem.
10th 11 now.
Oh, you said 10th 11.
Gino Achebe in the 80s said 5th 11. Our 5th 11.
You added 5 more to it.
I am saying today we are being run by the 10th 11 of Nigeria.
All right, I'll do my best to tie everything together. Speaking in terms of the comments made by the ADC spokesperson, that's Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, And in the context of the statement that he made, he was referring to a statement that had been shared by the presidential spokesperson, Bayo Onanuga, referring to some of the deals and some of the bilateral meetings that are currently being held in Brazil as the president is attending the BRICS summit. And in the tone of that, he shared a message, a press release on his X account, saying that the presidency and the government are working to remove bottlenecks that are stopping us from being able to reach food security. And that was in the context of the meetings held in Brazil. And he spoke of removing the bottlenecks, the bureaucracy that is holding back some of the deals that have been set between Brazil and Nigeria from moving forward. Of course, we saw recently there was the $1 billion deal that was signed in the name of the Green Imperative Program, an agricultural exchange between the two countries. And Mr. Bayo Onanuga was trying to say that, listen, there's a lot of bureaucracy happening here, which is stopping us from realizing the goals of the partnership that we have with Brazil. So having said that, as much as in a broader context, I think it goes without saying that, of course, the ruling party would be unsettled and jittery given the momentum and the impact that the coalition is already making on the polity. In the context of this particular statement referring to bottlenecks around food security, I think it was a misplaced comment, because the truth is that we are all aware that several deals have been signed with Brazil over a long period of time, but we're not yet seeing the fruits of those deals. We're not seeing them being realized into tangible growth on the ground. We're not seeing the expansion in the agricultural sector, in the food production sector, and so forth. In the context of that, I think that the ADC was slightly off topic on this one. As I conclude, of course, we'll speak a little bit about the economy and Nigeria being a lower middle income economy. Now, Nigeria was upgraded from being a low income economy to a lower middle income economy in just 2022, after being a low income economy since the 80s. But when you look at, again, context, the context of the countries that Nigeria is grouped with, and even those that are in the upper middle income economies, you're looking at your South Africa, Botswana, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and so forth. I think it's very important for us to contextualize this conversation with the fact that population plays a very big role when statistics are concerned in Nigeria. So now what we need to ask ourselves here is, with the rapid population growth that we have in Nigeria and the massive population as a whole, what are the measures that we're putting in place to be able to tackle and to be able to stimulate growth at a rate that matches our population? This is the challenge we face. Of course, there are already challenges around the diversification of the economy, value addition. If you look at Mauritius, for example, which is also upper middle income, they've been able to create an economy out of financial services. Botswana is rated as lower middle income, but the challenges with Botswana, again, are limited to the fact that they are stuck in diamond production as the bedrock of the economy. So how can we move from being a raw material economy, as we continue to talk about, to a diverse value-added economy that's able to cater for a large population, and that's also able to put into consideration the fact that Nigeria's population makes the statistics around the conversation of the Nigerian economy a little bit more niche than other countries. So in having said this, yes, it's important to group and classify countries, but I think sometimes the World Bank does create these classifications, and they don't really speak to the individual challenges that countries have at a foundational level.